Daddy, what do you think of my... Perko, what are you doing here? If you have to navigate some difficult people or some sticky relationship situations this Christmas or really any time of the year, this video is for you, because by the end of it, I'm gonna let you know one thing that you can do to help you navigate those relationships. Although I will warn you, it's a little unsettling. So if you're ready for this unsettling thing, let's get ready for Christmas.
I know I'm a little bit quirky, but I just don't know why everybody wouldn't want Christianity to be true. I mean, there's a big difference between I don't believe it's true and I don't want it to be true. It's kind of like...
Christmas introduces us to the one thing that makes Christianity so irresistible, and also the thing that is the answer to nearly all of our relational problems: grace. And Jesus' best mate John, when he was reflecting on what Jesus introduced into the world at Christmas time and on the life of Jesus, said that Jesus was all grace and all truth all the time. Now, if you're new here on the channel, firstly, thanks so much for stopping by. But maybe you're not sure what that word grace is. Well, really simply, grace is the undeserved, unmerited, unearnable favor of God. Grace is that thing that we want the most when our guilt is exposed, but it's also the thing that we're most hesitant to extend to others when their guilt is exposed. And there's this really powerful interaction that occurs during the life of Jesus that would explain why John was able to say Jesus was all grace and all truth all the time. And it's this interaction that lets us know why grace really is the unsettling solution for just about everything. And in this interaction, Jesus is hanging suspended on a Roman cross. And it's pretty full on because there's an entire crowd watching this happen, and the crowd actually start jeering him. And he's suspended between two criminals alongside of him. And what's even more interesting is that one of the criminals starts jeering him. One of the criminals starts abusing him. And the other criminal on the other side turns to him and kind of says to the criminal who's jeering at him, "Hey, this guy doesn't deserve to be here like us." And then he turns to Jesus and he says, "Jesus, would you remember me when you come into your kingdom? Because it's pretty obvious you're going to a place that I'm not." You've got to remember, Jesus was suspended on a Roman cross with nails through his hands and feet. So to respond was incredibly time-consuming and incredibly painful. And Jesus pushes himself up on the nail that's put through his feet, and he turns to this criminal and he says, "Today, I tell you the truth, you're going to be with me." And then he slumps back down and pushes himself back up one more time, and he says, "You're going to be with me in paradise." That's a lot to take in. And if you're anything like me, you look in on that interaction and you think to yourself, well, hang on, Chris, that's not fair. He was a criminal. And you'd be right, because grace is not fair. In fact, grace is better than fair. It's disturbingly unfair. And again, if you're anything like me, maybe you think to yourself, but Chris, doesn't Jesus care about the consequences? Doesn't he care about justice? The reality is Jesus cares more about justice and consequences than we could imagine. But stick around, because we're going to cover that in next week's video. Because Jesus was more acquainted with justice than we could ever imagine. In fact, Jesus gave up his life to deal with the consequences of injustice. And years later, John, Jesus' best mate, after witnessing that event, would have been reflecting on it and wrote the words that would change the way that humanity thinks about God. He wrote the words, "God is love." If you've ever wondered, hey, where did that phrase come from, God is love? Well, it came from John. It came from Jesus' best mate. It came from his experience with grace. And the reason that John was able to write those words is because he knew that love had a name, Jesus. And he knew and had experienced what Jesus came to introduce into the world, and it could be summarized in one word: grace. Grace is an invitation not to skip over those parts of your life that you wish you could forget. Grace says, I know all those parts. I know everything about you, and I still love you. Grace says, I know everything that you have done and everything that you will do. Now come and follow me. And honestly, when the message of Christmas is presented like that, I don't know why everyone wouldn't want Christianity to be true, even if they don't believe it's true. Hey, thanks so much for checking out our video. If you liked it, why not give it a like, give it a subscribe, and share it with someone who might find it helpful this Christmas.